entrepreneur. Audacity. Audacious. Now they're watching.
Angie Verzaletti here. Today I'm taking you through the identity trap that is keeping you stuck. If you've changed your job, your routine, your goals, and still feel like the same trap version of yourself, this one is for you. Today I'm breaking down the signs of what an identity trap is, exactly what it is, and how to figure out that you're in one. We're going to talk about the neuroscience behind why your brain keeps you stuck there and the one shift that gets you out, starting today. I spent over a decade in corporate business and mining leadership, did everything right by every external measure, and I still hit a wall so many times. And it wasn't until I studied the neuroscience of leadership formally that it explained why our brains keep us stuck. And I was never going to fix it until I learned this stuff. So here I am giving it to you. So what an identity trap actually is. Have you ever wondered why you can change your circumstances completely and still feel exactly the same on the inside? For me, I have done it all. I have worked my ass off and gone up the corporate ladder. I've gone into leadership and business and all of the things. And I, on paper, had a great resume. You look at that, you've seen a lot of success, finances, everything kind of in place. But who I wasn't the actual person that I wanted to be on the inside. I wasn't here fulfilling my goal in life. And that is to help more people have Audacity. And I wasn't doing that. I was working for a job or jobs for other people, helping other people get rich and doing things that really didn't light my soul on fire. And yeah, I got promotions. I was always results driven. So I always would get results. And I built this identity that, shone through and everyone was like, "Oh, Angie, great." But it was a performance for the outside. It wasn't keeping me happy on the inside. I was in an identity trap. Imagine building a house and that house is built on a foundation that isn't stable. Eventually, something's going to happen and that house is going to shake and it's going to rupture and fall because the foundation isn't correct for the house. Whereas when you have the right foundation, when you build that house, no matter when things shake and rock, that house will stay solid. That's what being in an identity trap feels like. It feels like you have built this house on a rocky foundation that is just ready to give way at any given moment. It's terrifying as well. It's not a nice feeling when you have been doing all of this work and you've gone to the wrong thing. And until we actually can get out of our own way, we don't see that. We see, oh, I need to be doing this. What about this? How about this? But that actually isn't your identity or the person that you want to become. And we know it internally, but we never listen to ourselves, obviously, which is why we allow ourselves to build these houses on these shaky foundations that aren't really truly aligned with ourselves. So an identity trap is when your nervous system defends the old version of you, even when it's hurting you. And it's not a weakness thing. It's a neuroscience thing because we want to keep familiarity. Our brains do not like change. They are resistant to it and we want to be safe. That's our wiring. Our biological wiring is to minimize threat, maximize reward, keep us safe from danger. And when we change our identity, we're going into the unknown. We're creating a space where things are uncertain and we can't actually predict what's going to happen. So our brains are flagging it as not safe, but it is actually the safest thing for us because staying in this identity that we're actually not aligned with isn't the way to go, but we often can't get out of our own way to do that. I spent so much time being in roles and positions and businesses that just didn't align with who I am. And it wasn't until I kind of got a push from the universe to go in a different direction. And this was unfortunately with an injury. It allowed me to redirect myself and actually realize that I was in an identity trap and it helped me get out of it. So I was quite thankful for that because, a lot of the times we have all the right intentions of us wanting to change things, us wanting to do this, but we never actually do them. We are always like, yeah. No action. There are ways that you can tell you have been caught in an identity trap. And there's 3 key signs that I want you to look out for. How do you actually know if you are stuck in an identity trap or not? One thing that you can really look out for, and this was something that I had to face because I was getting promotions, I was getting more money offered to me, I was getting headhunted for jobs, I was getting all of these achievements, awards, and oh my gosh, you did this, and oh my gosh, you did that. Like, here's this, what about this opportunity? And it was a lot of great things, but the more great things happened to me, the more I just felt like, what am I doing? I don't care about this. It was moments where you should have internally been feeling really, really good about things, and on paper, everyone would be like, "Oh, go you, that's awesome." But internally, for me, I was just having these moments of, deep reflection that, hang on a second, what am I doing? What am I working towards here? What does this mean? Is this for me? And a lot of the times, the more success that I was achieving, the more hollow I felt on the inside. And tapping into that feeling actually allowed me to notice and pick up on the fact that I was caught in the wrong identity. There's 3 signs that I really want you to start looking out for. And the sign number 1 is when you achieve something and you feel nothing. Any box that gets ticked, any something that happens, any big achievement or something that you should really be celebrating leaves you feeling hollow inside. It's a dead giveaway, because when you actually do make progress and achieve things, no matter how small they are, when you're working on the right things, you will feel so much fire inside you, opposed to when you're just doing something and then it's cool. This is cool. So what? So that's sign number 1. If you feel hollow on the inside when you're getting success, or when something's happened that you should be, oh, I should feel better about this, but I don't really care. That's a clear dead giveaway. Sign number 2 is you change your strategy, but you don't change your result, because your new plan still comes from your old self-conception. So a lot of the time we are operating in these identities where, we're like, okay, we'll do this, we'll change the plan, we'll come up with this, we'll come up with a better strategy, but it's not working, And for me, I'm a big believer, when you're working on the right things, there will always be friction. There will always be friction. But you will feel so pulled towards the right thing that friction will feel like nothing. And you'll want to embrace it rather than, okay, cool, change the strategy, we'll get this, we'll get that. Because, I do a lot of interviews with business owners and people who have started companies. And if you look at even into research and stuff of longevity and what actually has the biggest impact on us, it's when we're working in stuff that serves our purpose, like our soul's purpose here on earth, whatever it may be, that shit will pull you through all of that friction. And you will just be working in this newfound sense of self that it's a feeling that you cannot replicate until you're actually in the right thing. So sign number 2 is you change your strategy, but you don't get the same, your results stay the same, because it's clear that if you were meant to be doing this thing, you'd actually be getting results. And I know that there's a time period where you've got to stick some things out, but if you keep changing and still getting no results, you need to take a really good internal look and be like, okay, what's going on here? What's happening with this? That's sign number 2. Sign number 3, you can't picture the next version of yourself clearly, or you can't do it without anxiety. So what does that mean? You can't picture the next version of yourself without anxiety, or you can't see it clearly? It means that you have no freaking idea who you are. You were sitting there going, okay, I want to go into this identity. Who is it? What does she do? What does he do? I don't know. Who knows? But actually, when you do get out of the identity crisis and, you work through that, you will be able to see yourself clearly. You know who you're going to be and who you're stepping into. And there won't be an anxiety attached to it either. You will feel so pulled and so drawn into that new version of yourself that it feels effortless. And I can say this from experience because for me, it wasn't until I left all of the bullshit that I was doing and actually channeled what my soul put me on this earth to do. And when I say put me on this earth to do, and it created friction, you know, my journey was not like I was not going to fall into doing what I'm doing now just by chance, because I was so hungry for success and, you know, like working to what other people needed or expected, and, you know, like building this image of this identity of someone who actually wasn't aligned with me. And I actually got injured and pushed to do something else. You know, I wasn't allowed to go back to mining. And then I had all of this friction happen and it landed me where I'm at today. And I'm so blessed that it has. But it wasn't without a whole heap of really, really tough times and tough moments and periods where I had to sit within my identity crisis and be like, who the F am I and where the F am I going? What the frick is happening? I couldn't even picture anything. But then when I did find that inner sense of self and realize what my identity crisis was and that I was in one, everything changed for me. So pay attention to these signs because they will clearly highlight where you are on your journey, what gaps you've got, and how that's facing for you, because it really is something that so many people are so caught in. And it's not until we actually look in the mirror or have some turbulent kind of thing happen to us that redirects us without us choosing. Because if you're a stubborn bugger like me, you're not just going to go on that journey by yourself. Trust me. But there is also science behind why we do this. And our brain's wiring is at play here. So why does this happen? And why won't your brain just let you become the next version of yourself? If it was that simple, I tell you what, we would have less levels of depression and anxiety in this world, I feel. But it's not a thing. And our brains, as beautiful and creative as they are, they're a bit stupid. They really are stupid. Then there's research on that, trust me. So we have a filter. And your brain carries bias, right? And there's a neuroscience concept called the reticular activating system. And it's basically the part of our brain that notices what we already believe is true. So if we see ourselves as someone who's a reliable employee, a high achieving employee, a dedicated friend, you know, a housewife, whatever, this system in our brain is going to pick up on that and it's going to keep noticing that and seeing that and then reaffirm this belief that we're in, you know. So if our filter says that we're a reliable employee or a survivor or whatever, it filters out any contradictory evidence and even evidence that we want to see. So say, for example, you want to become a business owner and you've been in the corporate world for quite some time, and you've been in a job and you're like, right, I'm going to start my own business. But your brain's seeing, hey, reliable employee. You're like, no, business owner. What? New identity, business owner. This is who I am. Your brain's like, oh no, I don't see that. Reliable employee. And everything that happens and what you do, your brain only sees that reliable employee. It doesn't actually see business owner or whatever else you're working towards, you know, like it will block it out. And it is our brain trying to keep us safe. This is the whole thing with it, because we're so resistant to change that we don't want to step out of our comfort zone. Our brain doesn't want to create a new narrative. That takes work and energy and effort. And no, I don't want to do that. So this is why you need to understand that, you know, you can have all of the right intentions, but if your brain, if up here is working against you, you're not going to be able to come out of that identity shift. So there's some ways around it. Because I've studied neuroscience, I understand this, and I've been able to look into that and really know it on a scientific level. But I want to simplify it here because, you know, going into the whole science and research and data and everything, it can be a lot. So, and obviously I don't want to be like, trust me when I say it, because, you know, go look up your own research. Many of you probably will, no problem, don't care. But just know that our brains are resistant to change. You know, I know that that's a fact. I promise you. We are resistant to change. We do not like it. And it takes us to get to a point of being able to like lean into that rather than wanting to shy away from it. But it doesn't happen easily. See, our brains like safety and certainty, i.e., knowing what is happening, reliable employee, keeps us safe. We know that the outcome of this behavior, this identity, will keep us safe. That's why we keep repeating that. Whereas if you take it to, I'm a business owner, yay. My brain's like, what is that? I don't know what that is. Alarm. We're not safe. Business owner, we don't know the outcome of that. This is terrifying. And if you do go on the entrepreneurial journey, you do feel like it's pretty chaos. It's chaotic. I won't even sugarcoat it. It's a wild ride. And like, you need to learn to thrive in that uncertainty, because I tell you what, there's a lot of it. And, I've gotten to a point to be so comfortable with it now, but you still have moments of like, oh my gosh. And our brains want to take us back and be like, what are you doing? Why are you not keeping us safe? What is happening here? Stop doing this to us. We want safety, but, our brain wants safety, but we internally want something else out of our life. And it's not until we can put ourselves in a point that we actually do that and strive for that. So we can have all of the willpower to want to change, but unless you can understand and recognize that your brain's wiring is literally working against you changing, you're going to be facing this uphill battle with your mind. And it is so annoying. Our brains can be the best thing ever, but they can be the worst thing ever. And it's just a pain. But when you learn how to work with it and understand the science and everything that goes into the back end of it, you can actually overcome it. I promise you. Because we're not fighting a bear or anything like that. We're fighting our wiring, our survival wiring, which is really hard when we look at identity. So is the trap the enemy? Actually, no. And the reframe is what finally moves things. What do I mean by reframe? So we have an option in the brain, right? We can choose to see things, or we can reframe it. So when our brain is going biased that, hey, we're a reliable employee, like, what are you doing over here? To then going, actually, I'm a business owner now. And I know that brain, you might think this is really scary, but this is actually a really good thing. Here's why. And we turn a reframe into it. It's like, okay, actually, we are going to stop feeling so unhappy here, and we're going to be more happy here. And you learn to see things differently and change your perspective on stuff, because that is what will help you get out of an identity crisis. So the first moment that you consciously decide to choose a different identity, and not from like a point of, I need to fix myself, from the point of, I get to decide who I'm going to be, whether it be a reliable employee forever, or business owner, or, risk taker. I'm doing this, whatever it is you want to start, until you actually own that and say it and just embed that in your bones. And I mean, deep in your bones, because you got to say things with conviction if you're going to convince this thing in your head to come along for the ride. Because imagine it is up here wanting to throw a rock or a stick under your feet every time you're trying to run somewhere, right? That's what's happening. Our brains want to sabotage us. They're not fun. There's so many stories I could tell you with how I've had to reframe things. But one of the things that, comes to my mind initially is me becoming an author. And I've spoke about this on some of the other videos, and it was just such a profound thing in my life, because, that whole process in itself was terrifying. Writing about things that I actually had PTSD with and exposing myself in such a vulnerable way was so hard. And the whole writing process is so hard. And I did not realize that, just on a side note, no idea. But it wasn't until I actually sat down and I was like, okay, cool. I'm an author, and this is the identity that I'm taking. What do I need to do? How do I need to make sure that my brain gets on board with this shift, right? Because our identity, or the identity that we hold as a belief in our brain, is there to keep us safe. And it is there to keep us safe from danger, but it doesn't understand what danger actually is. And we don't have to hate it. But we do have to consciously outgrow it, because those fears that we have will keep us stuck if we don't actually do anything differently. And one of the biggest things and the most beautiful things about reframing stuff is you get to say from something's wrong with me to, oh no, I'm deciding and I am choosing who I'm going to be. I'm going to learn what identity I want to operate from, rather than just being a reliable employee. You can be, no, I'm a business owner, I'm a founder, I've started a multi-million-dollar company, I've done this, whatever it may be. You know, you get to take the risk and you get to choose who it is and like what audacious moves that you're going to take in your life, because our identities and our brains want to keep us just in this very small little bubble of safety. And we need to learn that that small little bubble of safety is actually where we stay stuck. And the language that we tell our brain is so important, because it means that we either stay stuck or we move through it. And this is why reframing things is so powerful, because our brains don't know thought from fact, right? So this is where affirmations and like positive reinforcement and visualization can actually be really good for you, because they help you channel that energy and help you transform into the new identity. But you have to be aware and you have to be consciously working on reframing it, because it doesn't just come out of nowhere. Trust me, it takes a lot of work, but it's not impossible. So here's one practical step that you can take today to see a different outcome through your identity. What are you going to start with? Here's one practical step. Step one. Well, there's one overall step that's got a couple of steps, right? Bear with me. So get a pen and paper, make it a fun one, make it look however, or just write it somewhere where you're going to be able to see it, and write the identity down that you have been carrying, whether it be a reliable employee, you have, I've been a gunner, I'm going to start this, I'm going to do that, I'm a failure in this, or whatever it is. I don't know. You pick the identity. It's late in the day for me. My brain stopped working. Probably not the best time to record, but whatevs. Write down that identity that you've been carrying. Give it a name. The reliable one, the high achiever, the survivor, the whatever. Give it a name. And then write one sentence one sentence and a reason that identity actually served you and how it helped you and kept you safe. Because our identities do play a part in like our life, right? They are there. When we develop them, evolve into them for reasons, because we need that to keep us safe and we need that for these things, right? But then write underneath it what the identity is that you want to shift into. And one small practical thing is writing it, just getting it out of your brain on paper can help you visually see that and help you work on reframing it. Because when you're stuck in an identity crisis, you really need to learn on and like lean on your mind and lean on your abilities and lean on the tools and things that you've got available. And sometimes a pen and paper can be the most profound thing that can help you get through things. So write down the identity that you've been working from, give it a name, and write one sentence for how it has served you and that you are ready to grow beyond it. And then if you're feeling up to it and you feel like you know what your new identity is, I want you to write that. And I want you to also put it in the comments, because I really want to hear what it is. So it takes a couple of minutes, and it is the first step that will crack open the rest. So if you've got some value from this video, I want to just touch on, this is what I do when I coach people. Identity work is not an easy thing, and it's hard, and we are so resistant to change that I can't, there's been so many versions of me that I've had to work through and grow through. And it's just been one of those things that's hectic. And like knowing what I know now, I had to work through it by myself, because I didn't realize that, there's people out there that can help you with this stuff. And I've created, my brand and the podcast, and all of the stuff I'm doing is to help you understand that you don't need to do it alone. So, if you've got something out of this video, go check out my other videos, check out the podcast. I do some wicked interviews with some guests, and they are freaking phenomenal. But just remember, when you shift your identity, it's not about adding more to your life, but rebuilding the identity that is working internally. And if you're ready to discover yourself and go deeper, you can book a free call below or check out some of the other materials that I have available. But I want to hear in the comments what identity you are shifting out of and into. And I'll see you on the next episode.